as I mentioned, in the bunker right now is our good and longtime friend, Jamie Neugebauer. And I said, we got to get Nugsy in because this guy can talk about literally everything. He's going to join us to talk about NHL. You can talk CFL. You can talk U Sports football, obviously junior hockey. You've got your take on Connor Bedard. You cover the Moose Jaw Warriors for DevNetwork.ca. And did I mention that you can talk CFL too on a big weekend upcoming? So I appreciate that. Nugsy, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Rod? Look, I gotta say, before you answer that question, Rod, it is always so warm in this bunker. I dressed properly this time, but I wanted to match the temperature where you are. So, I'm happy we're equal on the temperature footing. How are you doing right now, Rod?
Oh, really good. I appreciate that, by the way. And I remember Bill Chow, the president of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, coming in a couple of years ago when they had the showcase. It was like minus 47 Celsius outside and plus 47 Celsius inside. I thought he was going to die because he's wearing a thick sweater. So yeah, you're smart, Nugsy. You're a smart guy. Listen, before we get into the hockey talk, and I want to welcome in all the viewers too. We have got an avalanche of comments that have come in from our viewers via text on the 902 line, the YouTube feed, you name it, Twitter as well. On the number one topic that just was dropped in our lap overnight, it's the first Major League Baseball work stoppage in a quarter century. MLB's collective bargaining agreement expired last night, and owners immediately locked out players in a move that threatens spring training and opening day. Commissioner Rob Manfred wrote a letter to fans. It's on the MLB's website, expressing hope that the lockout will jumpstart labor negotiations. And it's brought about our poll question. Do you believe the 2022 Major League Baseball season will start on time? Our poll question is brought to you by Capital Automall Universal Collision Center. And the last I looked on Twitter and YouTube, the results were like 50-50. I'm voting yes. Nugsy, you took in some Blue Jays games, did you not, in the fall when you went back home?
Yeah, I went to one, which was great. And yeah, to the poll question, I think it'll be on time. The owners have said specifically that they're doing it now because they don't want a work stoppage. The players are saying this is just a tactic, and you know better than me, Rod. You've been around CBA negotiations. Everything in the media is a tactic. This is a tactic. I think there's plenty of time still for them to hammer this out. It's just a negotiation tactic. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. But I mean, I also wonder, I think baseball is playing a bit of a dangerous game. And I think the CFL is a victim a little bit of this. They didn't have a work stoppage, but they did miss a year, and it's awfully difficult to come back from. And while we don't think Major League Baseball is going to miss any games because nobody gets paid when they're not playing, we saw that. I think, do you think they run a risk of the tune-out factor? Because you're not old enough, Nugsy, but in 94, the last time there was a work stoppage, you've heard the stories. You're a big enough baseball fan to remember the Expos. Everybody felt we're going to win the World Series. And then there's the lockout, the player walkout, and a lot of people never came back to baseball after that. Are they flirting with that here? This whole millionaires fighting over money thing? Because I had probably talked about it more already today than I already want to.
Yeah, I mean, all the rage up here in Regina, as you know, is to talk about how there's nobody attending Rider games compared to the past, right? And maybe there's something to do with the vaccine, but maybe, Rider Nation, maybe the CFL in general lost a lot of fans by missing that season and playing with, work stoppage during a pandemic, during this time when there are so many other options for entertainment, as everybody's talked about till they're blue in the face. So obviously it's dangerous, and absolutely baseball will lose fans and lose attendance, and it'll be monetarily extremely damaging for a sport that, I think, is struggling to stay relevant. In North America, like baseball is, even though there's, a huge diehard fan base. But you talk a couple of years ago, even people were saying, the Riders are untouchable. They're going to stay 30 grand, of fans in the stadium every night. But it hasn't been the case this year. So, you're playing a dangerous game. I agree with you completely, Rod.
Well, it is a fascinating discussion because I see the social media what people are saying about the attendance at CFL games, and some have said, hey, they were selling out every game until they brought in the vaccine passport. And I'm thinking, well, maybe people just missed going to games for, and then that was the bump for a month. Who knows? I guess we'll find out. I thank everybody who's writing in on the text line at 902, entering our Tough Tribe contest. Mike Ramage from the provincial baseball governing body, Chris, Cindy, Jim, Kyle, Randy, everybody entering our contest for our brand new sponsor, Tough Tribe. And on the wards watching on Game Plus television in Manitoba, he says, "Good day, gang. Going on 30,000 tickets sold in Bomberland. We beat the Riders on and off the field. Go Blue." Signed Ward in Bomberland. But I didn't bring you in to talk football. We'll probably come around on that. And Moose will be with us a little later on from Langley to put a wrap on that. NHL. I've got the Toronto Maple Leafs ranked as my fourth team in my NHL top 5, Nugsy. And that's why I wanted to bring you in. We're airing on a Toronto television station, Game Plus, originating out of Toronto. That's your hometown. That's your team. Winners of 15 of the last 17. They just smashed Colorado last night. Yep. How big of a believer are you right now? What did you say in your column that runs at rodpedersen.com? The haters are awfully quiet right now?
Yeah, they're awfully quiet. Before I answer your question, I just want to tell a quick story, if that's okay with you, Rod. Last night, sure. Colorado Avalanche come into town. Obviously, the story, Darcy Kemper with the injury, right, before the game. And they call up an e-bug. And who's the e-bug? It's a good friend of mine, Jet Alexander, out of the University of Toronto. He was the CJHL goalie of the year in Junior A in 18-19. And just an unbelievable young man, World Junior A Challenge with Canada. So cool for him. I asked him how it was. He said, probably would have been better if we didn't get pumped 8-3. But they said that they were really nice. Landeskog gave him a stick, and McKinnon gave him some taps and all that. But anyways, to your original question, yeah, as I said on my column, you can catch it on rodpedersen.com every week. And Rod, again, really appreciate you having me on every week. The news around the rinks. The haters are very quiet, and I think people love to bash the Leafs, but what can you say right now, Rod? Like, what can anybody possibly say? That being said, I came into this bunker a couple of years ago, and you asked me, are they for real? Are they going to win the cup? I still don't think they have the it factor. They've been running regular seasons for the last couple of years, but obviously it's fun to hear the haters be a little quieter for sure.
Well, you don't need to wrap your thoughts up on that. I mean, you're a Leaf fan, but I always say you're from Toronto. Mm-hmm. You have to be. Like, I'm in the middle. I don't have it in front of me, but I have Sean Thornton's book. I was reading it this morning. Mm-hmm. It's on coffee table over here. Nice. And he talked about how he grew up in Oshawa, and you grew up in what, Scarborough, Vaughan?
I grew up in Vaughan,
official hometown?
Vaughan, yeah.
And he just said, listen, he goes, growing up in Toronto, you don't have a choice but to cheer for the Leafs. You hate the Habs and you hate the Bruins in those classic rivalries, right? Thornton's book is amazing, like really good. We got to bring him on again to talk about it, Fighting My Way to the Top. But I guess that's my point. You have to cheer for them. Chris Bird from King City, Ontario, watching, he says, haters hate the Leafs because they are Canada's team. Hashtag, how about that?
How about that?
No, I can speak for all Canadians that don't like the Leafs, in that we're tired of the hapless Leafs and the 1967 hashtag. If we want to hashtag something, let's hashtag that 1967. And we sit and frankly laugh at all the ballyhoo and the hype on Hockey Night in Canada and TSN Sports Center and Sportsnet Connected, Newsy, because go win something.
Yeah.
Go win something.
It, right? Or at least
and the short series. Memories that right. Doesn't even have to be the Stanley Cup. Yeah. Like, do you guys flush your memory? Do you Leafs fans go through shock therapy or something in the summertime and you forgot about the Game 7 implosion against Montreal last year? Like, how do you guys forget that?
Oh, we're a wounded fan base. I mean, where do you think the deep passion that Steve Dangle has really comes from? And now you and him are buddies to some degree. It's from that deep wounding. I was there actually. I go back to 2012 even. I was at the Maple Leaf Square when the Leafs imploded against the Boston Bruins in that Game 7. And, it's funny you mentioned there are two types of people in Toronto, right? There are people who love the Leafs and people who hate the Leafs to spite everybody around them. Like my brother, for example, was an Ottawa Senators fan mostly because he wanted to be different from everybody else. And he had Sens stuff. He wore Sens hats, and they were, he would leave them around. People would throw them in the garbage can in high school. And it obviously, I've said to you many times too, and we've, broken bread that Toronto isn't a great sports town. Junior hockey is not viable there. Minor hockey, it doesn't really get a ton of viewers, even though obviously it's great. So many great players in the NHL over the last number of years from the Toronto area. Don't have to list them all out, but it's obviously the Leafs are a religion there, and the big fans are at the bars and the pubs and whatever. People trying to afford tickets. But yeah, to your point, you kind of have to be, or you absolutely loathe them. Those are kind of the two options. But every year it's the same thing, right? But to go along with that, the team is really well covered, so people pay attention and know whether the team is good or not too. There is, a hardcore, core of people that are realistic and realize, what players there are, and this is a very, very talented hockey team. As much as people, love to hate them, and the last thing I'll say about it, Rod, is they're very, very happy that Mitch Marner has really figured it out, because the hate that he was getting at the start of the year was ridiculous, and I really hope that he's on Hockey Canada's radar for the Olympics.
Yeah, well, for sure. He needs to figure it out come playoff time, because I still don't think he's got a career playoff goal. I could look it up.
No.
By the way, sprinkling in our viewer comments, and thank you, Nugsy, for bringing it today, which I knew that you would. From BW, watching on YouTube, says it's called the Toronto Sports Network. If The Rock was still in downtown Toronto, they would be shouting from the top of the CN Tower. Toronto Sports Network. And that part is true, yeah. What?
You cover. I mean, hey, we're people who are in sports media. Believe it or not, for all the people out there, they're human beings. They have to live somewhere. Where do you live? They all live in Toronto. All those networks. You've been there, Rod, to those studios, Sportsnet. Right on Bloor. It's TSN right in Scarborough. So they're right there in Toronto. So that's where the local news is. That's where the passion is. And sorry, Canada, but there's 6 million, 7 million people in the Greater Toronto area. Like, I'm bad at math, but that's a big percentage of our country. So, what I would say is they're covering what people care about. If they didn't care about them, they wouldn't get ratings and they wouldn't keep covering it. And, the hatred that Toronto brings, the more you mention it on social media, the more you comment your anger and your hatred about this topic, the more it means you're paying attention. So the more that you're getting clicks and, the more advertising dollars. So it works both ways, right, Rod? Like, people love the Leafs, and so they tune in, or people hate the Leafs and they want to, tune in and hear them be bashed or whatever it is. So they're at the center, and but as I said, it's just indicative of our country in a lot of ways. They're not Canada's team, even though there was a song with an advertisement a couple of years ago. I don't know if you heard the song, Rod, where it was like, this is Canada's team. Go Leafs, go. Nobody wants to hear me sing, right? But but I mean, they have the leaf, the maple leaf on the crest. That's the middle of our country. As you said, to your point, they need to prove it as a hockey team. But they've also run lots of regular seasons. So I'm not getting my hopes up too high, Rod.
Look. I don't like or dislike the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah. I just don't understand the fixation with the Toronto Maple Leafs for a team that's largely been hapless for a very long time. That's all. Yeah. Now, to some of our viewers here, we've passed 1:11 Eastern. Randolph Zora, one of our viewers, wrote in and said, Rod, what does 11:11 mean? I said, Google it or look it up, because we refer to it every day. He has written back and said, I looked it up, made for an interesting read. And BW, watching on YouTube, says it's 11:11 here in Alberta. So he's checking in on that. James Zylstra in Manitoba says, just bring a Canadian city a Stanley Cup. I'm sick of the U.S. teams winning all the time, my Lord Stanley. Well, that's not the Tampa Bay Lightning's fault, or that's not the Detroit Red Wings' fault. Like, don't be mad at the U.S. teams. A lot of ways these Canadian teams can't get out of their own way. And Nugsy, whoa, holy smokes, is this going fast? We got a break. We got a break. We'll come back, and I want to get your thoughts on the CFL Division Finals. I did go back and read the Toronto Star article today. the one from earlier in the week from Damian Cox, who says this could be the last Toronto Argonauts game ever this Sunday, the Eastern Final. And I just wonder, how have they not taken this guy's laptop away? I hope that they don't even allow him into the state. Is he even going to go Sunday? And people get mad at what I say about the TFL.
Click.
That's stupid. It's dumb. That's beyond fake news. That's just ridiculous. That's cancerous.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of the Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.